Okay, hi YouTube. Right. Due to the amount of YouTube videos we've been watching of UK auditors, and there's a lot of them now, obviously, that have sprung up in the past 6 months to a year for all the obvious reasons. The amount of police from some officers, not all, but a lot, the sheer aggression from well, I'd say a lot of police officers is staggering. Now, a couple of points I'm going to make, right? The first one is the radio system they use. It's digital. It's been out since around 2001 and it's nationwide now. That is something I know a fair amount about radio, because I'm quite an anorak in that department. I've had the amateur radio licence for well over 20 years, and I've been interested in radio and the theory of it ever since I was a young kid. So it's just something that I find helped me a lot. I'm interested in the theory of it, and I'm not fantastic at fixing radios, but I'm pretty good at making aerials, antennas. So okay, what's the issue with the police radios? The system's called TETRA and it's digital, and I suppose in some ways it's similar to the mobile phone system, but as in it's digital, but that's where the similarities end. It works at a much lower frequency, just under 400 megahertz. What does that mean? Well, okay, I'm just going to wade straight in here. My book, the ARRL Antenna Handbook, American, cost me about 30 quid, Complete Antenna Theory. I've looked at the section a few nights ago on RF radiation. I think I have an explanation, a possible explanation for some of the aggression being shown by officers. I have a couple of reasons, but this is the main one. So here's the section on RF radiation and electromagnetic field safety. Okay, there's a lot here, but I've just underlined what I think is relevant, and I'm going to read it out because, one, if anybody tries to make out I'm just some crackpot or maverick, or crackpot maverick just making stuff up as I go along, no, this isn't what I've read. This is what I already know. This information, I've been interested in it for 50 years. So okay, I'm just going to come out with some stuff and then explain, elaborate on it. Okay, when a transmitter, as in a police walkie-talkie, a TETRA handset they all have, when you transmit, they send out a signal, and for these purposes it's called EMR. EMR meaning electromagnetic radiation, which is what it is. EMR poses certain health hazards. It has been known since the early days of radio that RF energy can cause injuries by heating body tissue. I will say now, at the power levels used in those handsets, they're a watt or two output. I don't think the issue is so much as localized heating, which is how a microwave oven works, but rather not thermal effects, but what are called athermal or athermal effects, which is the other effects with the brain and the body being bombarded with digital microwave frequencies pulsed at very close range by an antenna that's typically here or here. So okay, but I will carry on about the thermal effects. Just read this bit. RF induced heating in the eye can result in cataract formation and even cause blindness. Obviously, cataracts can be cancerous. Other health risks, other health problems can also result from RF heating. These heating related health hazards are called thermal effects. A microwave oven is a positive application of this thermal effect. Now, this is in particular the point I want to try and make. There also have been observation of changes in physiological function, that means obviously mental function of the brain, in the presence of RF energy levels that are too low to cause heating, which is what we're talking about here. The concerns about athermal effects. These functions return to normal when the field is removed. Typically that's been described, what I've read on the TETRA-UK site, which we'll come to, when a police officer has a holiday for a couple of weeks and he's nowhere near, he's not carrying that radio around with him. The ill feeling he had and just the general, what he was suffering, vanishes until he returns for work. Okay, turn the page over. I'll crack on because I've got quite a lot to say. Okay, this is specific. At frequencies near the body's natural resonant frequency, RF energy is absorbed more efficiently and an increase in heating occurs. In adults, this frequency is usually about 35 megahertz. That's not far above the old CB band. If the person is grounded, and about 70 megahertz if the person is insulated from ground, that would be standing on a wooden or rubber block, or potentially being in a car, I think, a vehicle. This is the relevant bit, particularly relevant. Individual body parts may be resonant at different frequencies. The adult head, for example, is resonant around 400 megahertz. Well, TETRA is operating, police radios are operating on around 390 to 395 megahertz, so it's almost bang on there. While a baby's smaller head resonates near 700 megahertz. Though 700 megahertz is more or less smack bang in the middle of the digital TV frequencies, not Sky, but what's it called? I forgot the flipping name of it, but the terrestrial TV frequencies, you know. Okay, right. Specific absorption rate, SAR, is a term that describes the rate as which RF energy is absorbed into a tissue. Okay, so we'll come back to that later, about the human head being the perfect size to suffer, and it is suffer, to be bombarded with the most damaging RF energy to be absorbed from police radios, is a policeman's head. Right, moving on. In the case of athermal effects, some studies have identified a weak association between exposure to EMF at home or at work and various malignant conditions including leukemia and brain cancer. Yeah, and onward, the last bit. There have also been considerable laboratory research about the biological effects of EMR in recent years. For example, some separate studies have indicated that even fairly low levels of EMR might alter the human body's circadian rhythms. That's sleep patterns, isn't it? And such like. Affect the manner in which the T lymphocytes function in the immune system. That's the cells which keep us alive in the immune system, isn't it? And alter the nature of the electrical and chemical signals communicated through the cell membrane and between cells, amongst other things. Okay, right, I'm going to go to the TETRA-UK website, which has been going for around 20 years, but it's quite bang up to date. This PC goes into standby mode quickly, so it's come back on. Right, there's a lot here. I'm going to read out a few comments. I think this is the most important part. Police officers, serving police officers over the past 20 years and up till now, have been communicating the TETRA-UK website, which is an independent website for people concerned about the damage caused by these, not just by police using the handheld radios, but by the base stations, which I can see one from my bedroom window about 220 metres away, and they're spewing out, they're not like the mobile phone masts, which basically shut down and idle at night and only put out as much power as they need to according to how far away the handsets are. No, they're running 24/7, 365 on maximum power. Okay. I am a serving police officer using Sapura Airwave. In January 07 I got an infection in my mouth which then became an ulcer. The ulcer would not clear and a biopsy showed oral cancer. I have undergone an operation and had it removed. The site is adjacent to where the aerial of the radio sits when I am wearing it. None of my consultants or doctors has discounted airwaves as a possible cause of my cancer. PM Lancashire. This is from serving police officers. I have been using police TETRA radio system for several years. I have suffered burning hot ears, the ear that I have my radio earpiece in, and I'll elaborate on that in a minute, and hotness to that side of my face. I have also suffered headaches and dizziness and fatigue, usually after a long shift using my radio. I am very concerned, but I have to pay the bills. I fear we are heading for an epidemic of health problems related to TETRA. Dominic, Bristol. I'll read a few more letters from the police, but I'll come in now with my comment, which is, being something of an authority on this subject, like radio, I do know that if you get a piece of wire or metal and hold it next to an antenna, even a receiving antenna, it couples, meaning it's connected. There doesn't have to be a metal connection. It's called inductive coupling, and the point is, my point, to put as simply as possible, I've noticed a lot of police officers, they obviously wear the earpiece, a single earpiece, and the lead comes down, the black lead, and it plugs in the radio. But I know that obviously, let's say you're involved in a scuffle or arresting somebody and it gets a bit violent, it would be quite easy for that lead to be jerked or knocked, that earpiece lead, and the socket being ripped at the radio, and then of course the cop wouldn't be able to hear what anyone's saying. So what they do, what I've noticed a lot of officers have been doing for many years, is to avoid that potential situation of it being ripped out so easy and flapping round, which you don't want, they where the lead comes down and say the aerial's here, they've wrapped the lead a few times round the antenna. I do know what happens then is the whole lead for the earpiece and the earpiece in your ear becomes a hot antenna. The waves aren't so much just radiated by the antenna there. That lead is right against your ear and into your ear, and the health risks are greatly increased. If anybody doesn't believe me, just speak to any radio amateur above intermediate, like a fully experienced G station, and they will confirm this. It's called inductive coupling, and it works on, if you get a medium wave receiver, the old sort, just like 6 transistor radio, and you put it next to a big bunch of wire, a load of interference comes in and it can make the station stronger. You do not have to have a physical direct connection, so very dangerous officers doing that. Lastly, I'll try and explain this off my own back without resorting to ad-libbing it. The police radios, being digital, it's a form of radio, digital system that's pulsed, and it's pulsed at 17.6 cycles every second. Apparently, the human brain operates in that region, and also strobe lamps that have been activated to pulse at 17 strobes a second have been caused to be a very strong frequency for causing epileptic fits in people with epilepsy. So what I'm saying is here, what I see and what the Tetra Watch is saying, there's a perfect storm. Many officers very ignorant, stupidly but ignorantly wrapping their earpiece lead round the antenna, which is then channeling more dangerous a signal which is right at the frequency of being absorbed by the human head. A pulsing system which was advised not to be used and has only been adopted in the UK, but elsewhere in the world a non-pulse digital system is used. So the pulsing, the earpiece, it would be dangerous enough even if they weren't wrapping the antenna around the earpiece. But to me, doing that, like having that wrong frequency, which they could have chosen other frequencies, it's the perfect storm. I think I made myself pretty clear. What's this going to do? I'm going to get to the health issues because I don't want to waffle on anymore too much. I wanted to try and keep it as short as possible. There's a lot of letters off police, and I'm just going to read some of the more shocking ones. Just running through. I should have done this before, I know, but yeah, hang on. Well, having served as a PC in South Wales and using the TETRA system and suffering side effects of it, and being told not to bother complaining and reading the health effects here, I feel we are all in terrible health danger and we should all speak out, even strike. Let's all stop using this system. The government were offered a cheaper and health tested system from the UK, which they refused to buy. Well, I've done all the homework. That's absolutely true. And the real experts on this, with the PhDs and everything, have said TETRA is the perfect storm. As in very dangerous for everybody. How can we work to enforce a law-abiding society when our own lives, family lives and comments are not being listened to? PC, Wales. Hang on. Hang on. There was one here that was shocking. I'm just trying to find it, so you can just bear with me. All these comments are just from police officers feeling ill and even being diagnosed with cancer and having to have tumour removals and cataract and all, just sorts of horror stories. As I said, TETRA watch. So okay, look, I think I'm going to wrap this up. Try and wrap this up. Oh, here's one. This is interesting. I'm a serving police officer and I've only just discovered this site, having just read the TROA report on the TETRA radios as well as information on here. To say I am worried is an understatement. I feel the concern is growing within my force regarding the safety of the equipment we've been told to use. Note that we haven't been consulted on the equipment. Many officers have expressed concern and have stated they are considering not using the handsets, although inquiries are ongoing as to the backlash from senior officers and future disciplinary action against us should we do so. I can pass your website on to I will pass your website on to my colleagues, and hopefully things may move forward, and we will actually have a chance to read what is going on. DM South Yorkshire. So yeah, I'm going to wrap this up. There's just so many letters. What this does, what illness it causes is, and I'll try and remember them, there's so many: nausea, headaches, migraines, sleeplessness, disturbed sleep, agitation, depression, severe depression, anxiety, paranoid thoughts, potential aggression, and some officers have stated on the letters that they've had to have tumours removed. So yeah, cancerous tumours, so on and on and on and on and on. So yeah, this must weigh heavily on, you know, a lot of police officers' minds, even if they aren't suffering, as far as they know yet, on the job, any ill effects from TETRA radios. It must be a worry. Well, no doubt it is from reading these comments. And the amount that have gone sick. Right, there's been a lot of lawsuits. I know from the newspapers over the years, the police have sought to take different forces to court for failure of duty of care because of these radios. I also know that 2 years ago, the system was supposed to have been mothballed, and I think it's Tetrapol or something similar, the non-pulsed, safer FDMA system, I think it's called, was going to be rolled out, but that hasn't been. And with COVID, and all that's costing the taxpayer, which the government's in control of the money, to be honest, I don't see any new system coming out at all in the near or distant future. So yeah, maybe a lot of the aggression is caused by worry, and maybe a lot of the aggression is caused from officers on the job due to anxiety, sleeplessness, migraines, etc, etc. So okay, I think I've covered the radio bit there really. Finally, one other thing, aggression in police officers. Coley Bergs, is it? Hello?
Yeah,
Colkey or Coley Bergs, one of the auditors on the internet. Where is he? He's in the UK,
I
but...
think he's in Surrey.
Who?
Surrey?
Surrey. Well, anyway, yeah, Colkey Bergs watched his recent arrest, which was, and it was pretty shocking, the officer's behaviour, and he was arrested and everything. And he showed some pictures and a separate clip of the young cop. Look, I'm old enough to be a lot of cops on the beat now. I literally am legally, if you get me, legally old enough, not just to be their dad, but their granddad. I'm older than I look, okay? And I'm easily old enough to be the father of I'd say 90, well, a large percentage of officers. So my point, I've been around, I've seen a lot, and things have changed. He posted a picture of this cop that assaulted him, who he's got a lawsuit against, and it just reminds me of the typical young guy now. Sorry to stereotype, but beard, trendy haircut, young person's thing. And this cop, he's not normally a big built guy, but he's got big bulging muscles. Now I know you can get big muscles without steroids, but to have a thin waist, if you're just not a big built guy, if you're just a normal medium framed or small framed bod, to get big muscles and have abs and cuts, a lot of the time it's drugs. I know, because I've been around the track a lot of times, So, and I do know, I've known serving police officer, at least one, who took shitloads of steroids. Gary Bodsworth from Kidderminster in the late 80s, he used to go down our gym, and he was he was the UK National Police Heavyweight Boxing Champion, and he told me, before he went on the steroids, because he made no secret about taking them, he said he was writing a book on how to take small amounts of steroids and get huge. So, he wasn't a fraud, as in he wasn't in denial, but he said he was like 10.5 stone before he started taking them. So he was just a small to medium frame at best, quite short guy, like 5'9", and he was like 16.5 stone, ripped, looking like something out of Marvel magazine or a comic book, He-Man. And I was at the end of his aggression once, because I used to be a druggie and a drinker, and I'd go on the drugs, and I'd be on the drink and the drugs for months partying, and then I'd get sick of it and disillusioned, and I'd go back to the gym, but I've lost loads of weight, and I just alternated it, and back at the gym for 3 months, and I'd get bored of the gym and missing. So I did this for 5 years, on, off, partying straight. During, when I went back to the gym after a party session, Gary was there, the cop, off duty, and he says, "Hi Pete, you back in the gym?" I said, "Yeah," and I was in a bad way, sweating, and struggling, and he said, "Bloody hell, what's wrong with you? You got AIDS or something?" And that just really hurt me, because my head was bashed from all the drink and the drugs anyway, my fault, but to have that remark thrown at me, and there was him looking like He-Man, on all the steroids, and I just said, "No, I ain't got AIDS, mate, I hope not anyway. Nah, it's just too much partying." And he did come over and apologise about 10 minutes later. He goes, "Sorry about that, I shouldn't have said that." And I said, "Nah, you shouldn't, but that's okay, forget it." But yeah, he left the job, and I was told last time he was seen by a friend of mine, Martin. If you're watching, you said he looked like a right wreck, didn't you? He'd had to leave the force, I think, mental health problems. My point, steroids, there's more steroids around now coming in from China, the raws, you know. Of course there's police officers taking steroids. I have no doubt about it. I even believe there might be some officers end up watching this. My advice is, you think you can handle it, they'll pickle your brain, you know, they'll mess you up. You being a cop won't protect you at all. I know a guy in Kiddie, he committed suicide through steroid abuse. His head popped. So yeah, there's cops out there on steroids as well. I know for a fact now. So, I see them in the gyms. So, auditors, just two very long drawn out reasons that why police might be suffering but not, you know, not making it known. Thanks for watching.